And thank you everyone for joining us. We got some new people today. It's exciting. We're going to talk about AudioPort for producers. And I really love that the people who've joined us today, we've got kind of a nice variety of shows. We've got a jazz show and a political events takes show, public affairs, and then like a kind of adventures on the coast show. So that's fun. I like that, you guys. And maybe I'll just give a quick overview and then what you guys can expect we're going to talk about today. And then Ursula will start with the official introduction. We're going to give just a basic intro of what AudioPort is and who uses it, who built it, what we're looking for to improve on it in the future, how to get an account, and then we'll talk about the step-by-step uploading your information into the page in AudioPort in the best way so managers can read it easily and find what they want from you. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the workroom. So that's our plan. So I see Dina is in view. Okay, cool. And I'll turn it over to Ursula.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Make sure you can hear me properly. Okay, so what is AudioPort? AudioPort is essentially, AudioPort was created in 2004, 2003, and 2004. So it's in web language, it's an old website. It looks like it. And essentially what AudioPort is just a big database that's online. And it is, it's interesting, when we created AudioPort, we actually were approached by the creators of PRX, which is the the public radio kind of equal or kind of parallel website. And we talked about collaborating, and we realized that we were really doing something differently than them. PRX has really become more of a content place to shop for content. And AudioPort is conceived as essentially a warehouse for our network where where program directors can run into the warehouse, grab what they need off the shelf and run out again and get back to doing radio. And so it's a content sharing database that is defined within the network and it's not a public site. It's what you call a wholesale site. Only network members can really access it. So when you think of AudioPort, I think there's two things that is kind of defines what it is. It's a database and it's a warehouse for us in the network to dash into and grab something that we need to put on the air. AudioPort, let me share this, oh, wait a minute. I'm doing this backwards. First I have to do share content. Okay. So if you think of AudioPort as just a very simple database, it makes what you see here much more understandable. What you're seeing is essentially just the links to a database. The website was intentionally designed with no splash page, nothing, because the idea was you were just able to run in and get what you want real quick with no barriers to go through. AudioPort really essentially does only three things. It helps you find programming, as you can see here. It allows you to upload your own program yourself. And that's the upload. And it gives you, it's the workroom, which is, oh, it wants me to log. All right, let me log in here. It wants me to log in. And the last thing it is what we call the workroom, which is a euphemism for space on the server that is private for you, and that only you can access and people that you allow. Now you can see I have a lot of people that I've access to their workroom. So essentially you can allow people into it. So AudioPort is really just those three things. It's a place to get programming, it's a place to upload programming, and it's a place to store content privately on the server. It does do two other things, which came later. One was that people wanted to an archive. Well, okay, let me start here. We added a stream, so now the website does have a stream. The stream was originally a stream of our satellite because Pacifica had a satellite that had its own schedule that people with satellite equipment were using. And we created a stream for that so that people who wanted to get the satellite online could access it. Since then, we actually no longer have a satellite. So the word KU satellite is now kind of it's a historical name. Today, it's just the stream. So it's the same content that the satellite used to have, but now it's just a stream. And there's two streams. One is for the regular programming on the left, and the right stream is silent and is only used when we do special coverage of, say, elections or some special live coverage. Then we use the right channel for the satellite. So that's one other thing the website does. A lot of this plays a role for stations, especially on the East Coast, who want to play Democracy Now! At 8 o'clock when the show is live, and then they can stream it live. That was a lot of the impetus for getting the stream on AudioPort. And then the last thing AudioPort does, which is it is being archived in real time. And so there is an archive of the so-called satellite stream. So this is an archive of the stream, and it archives the shows within seconds after the show finishes on the website. So it gives another place for people to get content. Okay. So, but for all intents and purposes, the best way to think about AudioPort is really these three functions: uploading programming, downloading programming, and storing audio online in a private space on the server. Pacifica server is where the website lives. I mean, we don't own the server, but we rent a server. I think it's in Houston. It has been extremely well defended. And I think in the whole history of AudioPort, which went up in 2004, I can only remember one time that somebody was able to hack into the website and take it down, which is pretty good considering how many moving parts there are to this website. So the website is a robust website. It holds up really well. And the other thing that really holds the website together is that it relies on the culture of cooperation that defines our affiliate, our Pacifica network. You know, when we built AudioPort, so many people told us not to do this because they said, there's no way, you know, a website where people are allowed to self-upload won't get you into trouble within the first week because people won't, you know, obey the law, they won't behave properly. And, you know, almost 20 years later, I can say that we've had very, very few problems in AudioPort because the culture of participating in the network in an ethical way has really shown itself through AudioPort. And the website really managed to transform Pacifica Network from a kind of a hierarchical situation where Pacifica was just feeding programming to its affiliates to now a genuine network where we can see each other, we can hear each other, we can share with each other what we have. And so the website really transformed our network in a really wonderful way. Who uses AudioPort? The people who put content in AudioPort are either producers from affiliate stations, and as we mentioned before, they get accounts through their local manager of AudioPort and their local station. And there are also a significant number of independent producers now that use AudioPort to provide content as well. I would say we have, I would guess, maybe 150 independent production groups who are producing content that goes into AudioPort. A lot of these production groups are spin-offs from community radio stations. And some of them are academic groups or kind of other, odd ways that people get to grassroots production. But the productions in AudioPort are by and large can be defined as grassroots content. It's kind of the main thing that holds it together. The people who take content out of AudioPort are people at Pacifica affiliates. Nobody else has access to the website except for there are a few programs that are not password protected that we create and we kind of use as loss leaders. But other than that, no content in AudioPort is available to anybody except the people in the network. Now, there's one thing I just want to back up for a minute. When I was kind of defining what AudioPort is, the other thing I want to say about it is that when you think of what the website is, you have these three functions: finding programming, adding programming, or storing stuff in the workroom. Everything else you see on the website here are basically search tools. There's different ways, and it's very redundant. This is the same thing as on the navigation bar. So really, when you think of AudioPort, that's really all that this website does. It makes it possible for you to move around or store content, and it gives you a number of ways to search for content. And other than that, and then it allows you to stream. Other than that, it does not do anything. It's a very simple website. And the last thing I want to say about how the people that are taking content out of the website, in this day and age, a lot of people have automation systems who take from AudioPort, not by hand, not by downloading the content, but by connecting an automation system to it. The way that happens with AudioPort is that AudioPort is essentially a podcast host, and people are using podcast technology to download shows from AudioPort. It's kind of interesting because podcast technology went through this kind of weird phase around 2006, 2005, where it had been invented, but nobody kind of saw the point of it. And some people tried to make podcasts or did, but didn't really get a following. And the technology almost kind of disappeared. And it was during this time that the realization came that technology could be used to deliver the content to radio stations. And then at that time, AudioPort was made into a podcast host and uses that technology now to deliver content to many of the stations who don't have the staff to sit in the studio and download content by hand. Okay. The one thing AudioPort is not is it is not software for local stations to manage content locally. Every once in a while, we get an affiliate who gets this idea like, oh, if we put our local shows in AudioPort, then we can automate taking them down to put them on our own airways. So they're kind of using it as a local automation system. And when we discover somebody's doing that, we politely ask them to not do that, because it really interferes with what the network activity. And now there are some stations that have really, really wanted to do that. And so we've worked with them and made a way for them to do it through their workroom. So there are ways to do it, but we really kind of don't want to encourage it because it's really not the website's intended for, and it's a lot of work for us to accommodate that. Okay, so just a few words about who built AudioPort. Because I've come to realize we really do need to honor the people who, brought us to where we are. AudioPort was created in 2003, and I think it went live 2004. This is Pete Caracas. He was actually, the concept for AudioPort was introduced.
I don't think
Oh,
your
you can't see
picture,
it?
picture of Pete's not showing.
Okay, let me redo this then. Sometimes this doesn't work. Let me try it again. Okay, I think. Okay, now it's going to work. All right, thank you. Okay, so now Norm Stockwell, some of you may know him. He used to be the operations manager at WORT, and he sat me down at an NFCV conference in 2002. We were a little bit drunk, and he took out a napkin and he outlined for me what we wanted. Now, you have to remember, this was before the concept of the cloud existed. So most people really had no idea, I'd never thought of this yet. People hadn't really comprehended that you could use servers to share content online. But Norm asked that we do that so that the Pacifica kind of relinquish its control over moving audio around. Because on the satellite, obviously you have to schedule that and control it. And to use the web to share content. It was a revolutionary idea. And at the time, Pete was the webmaster for Pacifica, and he recognized the value in that and made it a priority. And we really have Pete to thank for the fact that today we're able to share content with each other. Okay, so what he did was he was aware of, oh, hold on just a minute. My computer's doing something kind of funny. Let me try something else. He was aware of the work that had been done by Sean Ewald, who was a young kind of talent. And Sean had created a website that still exists called Radio for All. And hold on a second, my computer's doing some funny things. Okay. Sean was really a pioneer. Sean had figured out that he could, in fact, use the web to share content, and was really one of the first people in the country who realized he could do that. That's Sean there. It's not a great picture of him, but it's the best I could do. He lived in upstate New York, and he created Radio for All, which was a very revolutionary website at the time, which was based on this kind of the idea of the cloud, sharing content on the cloud. This is a picture of him working in the server that for a while housed AudioPort. It was a server in New York City, and this was down in the server space. And here he's programming AudioPort. He was the coder. Pete was the project manager. Sean did the coding, and he took the coding for Radio for All and converted it to make a website for Pacifica. It was a very difficult process. I remember it well. Okay, so those are the folks that created AudioPort. And in 2004, it went live. And for about 3 years, nobody used it. It was we sent out a letter to everybody we could in the network saying, okay, this is a new tool for you. And I think everybody thought we were trying to sell them something, and everybody just threw the letter away. So it didn't catch on for a long time. It took maybe 3 or 4 years before people started to, we had to kind of talk people into using it. Today, I get a total of maybe 3 or 4 requests a week for people that want to put content in AudioPort. So today, the website is incredible. It's a simple website, but incredibly active. And I think the reason is because there's a network that drives people to it. So the website just is growing at an exponential rate right now. That's so much that we've recently had to change servers because there was no way that the server we were using could handle the workflow. Okay, so the last thing I want to say about the creation of AudioPort is that we are very aware that this is, software that was created in 2003, and that there are some things that the website doesn't do that we wish it did. We wish, we would like the best possible website for you. So there's a simplicity of the website we'd like to keep, but there's a lot of things that we run into that we think, boy, it would be really nice to make that nicer today. And we're definitely interested in your feedback. So if what I'm trying to say is, if you ever notice something when using the website that really bugs you, that you think, I really wish this was a little bit more user-friendly, or I wish the website did this, please write to us and tell us, because we're keeping a list of what we'd like, so that when the day arrives and we have the money to redo AudioPort, that we'll know what we want to change. Okay, so let me stop here for a second and check in with you. Comments, questions before we start talking about using the website.
I just thought, this is Jill talking. I just thought it was fun going the Wayback Machine with those pictures and seeing the computers they were working on.
Oh yeah,
to do all of that.
Yeah. Let me show you one more. I have one more here. Let me see. Yeah, I know it's very 2003.
Right, and even the hairstyles and
The hair, yeah. Okay, let me do this. I don't want to take up too much time, but you're talking about hair. Look at there's some sort of thing going on with electricity with his hair here. That's that's he's configuring the website there on whatever that, whatever's, I think he's got a laptop in there.
looks like he's being shocked.
Yeah, his hair's kind of flying out. But yeah, that was in the locker room down in Manhattan. I remember that. I mean, those rooms are really interesting when you go down there. It's definitely a world unto itself. So anyway,
approach.
What?
Looks like a hands-on approach.
Hands-on approach. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk. Any other comments or questions?
I just think it's a great story. Thank you for sharing the history.
Oh, good.
Yeah. It's a great story to hear how a couple people had an idea and then made something happen, and now it's turned into this really cool thing.
Yes,
and that you stuck with it for 3 or 4 years and just didn't bail.
Yeah.
That's perseverance.
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's, it just goes to show when you do something new, you don't know if it's going to work or not. You really don't. And we didn't know if it would work. We were kind of like, did we just waste a lot of time, or, like, you don't know. But we also hadn't heard of the concept of the cloud yet, so today this is kind of taken for granted. But most people, when we talked about it, they were like, what are you doing? I mean, people didn't have any way to think about it. And but I appreciate you saying that, because it's only recently have I realized that that we need to honor the people who pioneered this. And Pete never really adequately got credit for making that decision and really making it possible for us to have a network. And he was never really thanked or acknowledged for the revolutionary work that he did for Pacifica. So it's about time to give him some credit. And also to Sean for, his really for his genius. Okay, so let's talk about having an account in AudioPort. This was asked before. So again, the way you get an account is usually through your there's like 2 levels of accounts in AudioPort. Each affiliate station has an account, and within that account, the producers at the station have their own accounts. And this is kind of the the vetting process that we use. When we created the website, the question obviously was, how do you make sure that this all is on the up and up? How do you make sure that, the behavior is appropriate and the content is appropriate? And so we just decided to rely on the inherent structure of our stations, so that a local AudioPort manager, would make sure that whatever content was representing their station was appropriately represent, that they could feel good about it. So that process has worked okay. For us, the biggest problem is a lot of times people forget that they have local managers, and the local managers forget that they're doing it. So we kind of have to refresh them, but that's not a big thing. That's not a problem. So usually when, what happens a lot is we'll get an email from somebody at an affiliate station, and they'll say, I want to start syndicating. And then we'll call them up and we'll say, well, this and this person is your local AudioPort manager, and they're the person who will give you an account. And then once you have the account, we'll be very happy to work with you to make sure that, that you get a good start, but we don't really go around the local management of the station. Independent producers who are not an affiliate, they are vetted by us. They'll contact us, and then we'll do the vetting here in the office. So what we did recently is we created a questionnaire. Because we're getting so many requests for AudioPort, we created this questionnaire to give to people to help them to do a self-audit.
Are you going to show that on the, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm working on it right now. There's some
Okay,
convolutions.
well, while you're doing that, I'll just tell everyone, I'm planning to put these documents on the website, so people can access them too, but I haven't done it yet. So if any of you guys put your email in the chat, I'll be happy to send you these things that Ursula is sharing.
Yeah, so you can see that now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a questionnaire that we made. It's a fillable form, and the intention is not to create a bottleneck for people. These are the things that we normally discuss with an independent producer when they want to have a show on AudioPort, and it's the questions we really think a local AudioPort manager should ask a producer that wants to have an account through their station. And these are the basic questions that always come up. What is the mission of your show? Whether the show will be able to be produced regularly. Do you have, reserve shows so that when, there's a problem? And I'm not going to go through the whole list because we did a whole presentation on this. But I think what I want to say about this at this time is that it's kind of a good self-audit process for the person to take the first step. And we've started to use it, and we are going to really encourage all of the radio. We'll share it with our affiliates and really encourage them to use it as well. And one of the things that we also include in this is that there's a link to a page of information on our website that is kind of a best practices page, and gives some initial information as well. So we kind of tried to make it possible for folks to prepare themselves and to kind of give you a way to think about if you want to do it at all, or if you do, if there's anything you need to change to make sure it really works as a nationally distributed show.
Ursula,
Yeah.
is there a limit to the number of programs per station that can participate?
No.
Under the agreement? No.
No. Yeah, and there isn't, and down that line, one of the big stones around Otis is the manager now, the web manager, is that we have never taken any shows out of AudioPort. So the shows go all the way back to 2004, and it's an enormous, I mean, it's really a historical archive by now, but it's a lot of content. And sometimes Otis kind of says, can't we, get rid of some of this because it's a lot of stuff. But so no, we don't limit it. We don't, and to be really, clear, we do not vet the programs that are in AudioPort. It might be a good idea to do it, but we definitely do not have the staff to monitor this. So we really, really rely on the local station management to be responsible and for the producers themselves to be responsible. And we do not know what's in AudioPort. We try to keep up, but the content is coming from so many different locations. There is no way that we ourselves even know what's in there. Okay, so the questionnaire is a tool that we're kind of trying to introduce to people because I think it helps expedite the process. And the other thing I want to mention besides the questionnaire, and this is kind of a random piece of information, but it's something that comes up a lot. Something about the website now, and I think it's maybe because some more securities were put in place. I get a lot of emails from people saying my password doesn't work anymore. The login doesn't work anymore. And I kind of understand why that happens, because when I log in, it takes much, much longer now to log in than it used to. And I think it has to do with some security features that were put in. And so a lot of times people think the website is not logging them in, and it is. It's just taking a while. So I'll check up above and I'll see that little turning wheel and I go, oh, okay, it is logging me in. But it's kind of a weird thing about that is kind of good just to keep in mind. It's like one of those little things that hang you up. And
when you get people an account, it's basically just through email, right? Like we find out some information about the show or the station does, and they figure out it'll be a good fit. So we send an email to the person, and then and we give them a temporary password, and then they give their own password, right?
Yeah, but
basically.
The word "we" is a little bit deceptive there. We don't do it. The website does it. We are not
Right.
involved. The local AudioPort manager can set up an account, and then the website automatically sends an email to that person. We're not part of that process. But yeah, that is how it works. And then they set up their own account and they make their own password. A lot of people think that we have access to their accounts. We do not. We do not have people's passwords. We cannot access your account. That's yours. So there's a limit to, we can see all the accounts and we can edit. When I say we, I mean Stephanie and me and Otis. We can see all of the accounts. We can see what's happening, and we can actually edit the content as it looks on the page. But we cannot get into your account, and we definitely can't get into your workroom. So we don't know your password. Okay. And like, again, I have to say, I'm so psyched that for so many years, this cooperative culture has really made this possible. I mean, everybody told us this was not possible when we started out. And it's just amazing to me. It's like this beautiful thing that people have connected to this kind of cooperative, system where they make this possible. Okay, so when you decide to start doing a show, maybe at this point, Stephanie, I should go back to the website. I think.
Is it my turn?
No, not yet. We're getting there. We're getting really close.
Oh, you're doing the getting started. I'm doing the uploading. Okay.
Yeah. But let me put the website on the screen though. And okay. So when you start the show, the first thing you want to decide is how to what kind of a show it wants to be. Now there's So there's several options you have. If you want to syndicating your show regularly, you have to decide whether it's going to be a daily, a weekly, bi-weekly, or a monthly program. So that's like a decision you're going to want to make right away. You do not have to syndicate your program. That's the other decision you're going to make. Are you going to actually want to syndicate your program, or are you just wanting to put content? Like you'll notice here, Ann Garrison, she's a reporter from KPFA. She's not syndicating it. She's just a reporter, and not just, but she's a reporter who actually is traveling around the continent of Africa right now. Incredibly initiative. And she's collecting content and she's putting it in AudioPort for people to use. So AudioPort is not just intended to syndicate regular shows. It's also genuinely intended to share actualities, content that people can use to make their own shows. And so then this is kind of an interesting category which we created of just kind of news stories. Then we have music, events and speeches. We have specials, which is a category that's being very much abused right now by some people. And then we have documentaries, interviews. This is kind of newscasts, commentaries. And this is just actuality, Then we have, and this is an area where people can put in public service announcements. I see TUC Radio is using it for promos. That's actually not an effective way for her to be doing that, but maybe it works for her and the people that she's working with. It's really meant more for, when we get a public service announcement that we think a number of people would want to use, something like that. There's a section for the Pacifica Radio Archives, which doesn't necessarily apply to you, Spanish language. And then this is a category that we wish people would use more or put more in, but we would love to collect more content that people can use for fundraising. So anyway, if you have not ever used it, we did a Sprouts show that actually is a really successful fundraising show. So that's
And by that, you don't mean like making pitches, you mean content that is special that people would want to use while they're doing their own pitches.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Yeah, and you've never heard this. This is a really fun thing here, community radio song that was done by some producers here in Iowa. And it's actually a really great little anthem for community radio. Okay, so that's the first thing you're going to decide is what kind of, am I just putting content in there for people to use, or do I want a regular show? Now, all of the shows you see here that are bolded, those are regularly syndicated shows. A bolded show means that they're being regularly syndicated. In AudioPort language, that's called a series. A series is a show that's being syndicated regularly. And the big question you need to ask yourself is, if I'm going to do that, am I going to be regular? Because if you're not, you're going to frustrate people, you're going to lower the value of the website, and you're not going to be taken seriously. So that's the first thing you ask yourself is, do I really have the commitment and the time and the resources to produce a show, on a regular basis? Once you've decided what kind of content you want, and it's been vetted by either your local management or by us, then we are more than happy to help you get started. In fact, I recommend it because, there's a lot of little mistakes that can happen. It's an old website. It doesn't follow. It's not as user-friendly as, current websites. So we will work with you. We'll make sure that we talk over promotion with you, and we will usually be with you the first time you upload, so you don't go down any, take any detours that are going to take up your time and energy. We want to make sure you understand how to do it. Once you've done it once, it's pretty hard to do it wrong again because it's very simple. So we do encourage people to use us that way. We consider that part of our job. We also consider helping you to promote the show as part of our job. We will not promote the show ourselves, but we will give you templates for promoting the show on our listserv, and a template for sending us an announcement about the show, and we will announce it for you when it starts. so that you get kind of the extra push of an email from the network saying, hey, pay attention to this new show. We have templates for those, and Stephanie's going to put those on the website as well. I can also show it to you here. I just don't want to take up too much time, so we can talk about that later if you really want to see it. And then we do try to keep up with putting a notice about your show. We have a directory on pacificanetwork.org, and we, as best we can, we try to put every regularly syndicated show on that directory so that, you know, it's one more place for people to discover your show. Ultimately, the most effective way to get your show promoted is to go to pacificanetwork.org, look at the map of affiliates and links to their websites, and call the stations that you want to consider your show. That is the most effective way to get on somebody's air, is to give them a call and ask them to take a listen to your show.
And specifically talk to the program director, right?
Yeah, or whoever makes decision. I mean, there's so many different
Okay,
people.
it depends on the station, I
It
guess.
depends on the station, for sure. And then you have to be a little bit patient, because it usually takes shows a little bit time to get traction for a number of reasons. Okay, so that's kind of the basics. Before I hand this over to Stephanie, let me stop right here and check in for questions or comments.
This is Jill. I do have a question, and that is, do you know when your show's been picked up?
Yes, and I will show you. I'm going to use Sprouts because that's our show. I actually can see everybody, but I want to respect people's privacy. So here's a Sprouts show. That's our show. I mean, our show. We produce it here. Now you'll see down here are all the people that have downloaded the show.
Oh,
Now,
that's
this-
nice to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Now, this is
helpful.
kind of confounded people. This is kind of a strange historical record here of how the web has changed. What you see here up download info, which was the original thing, where you can see who downloaded the show, their email address, and where they're from, right? But then along came the desire to automate, right? That happened in around 2005. People started saying, well, we want to automate downloading. So then Pete, you know, being forward thinking, he said, oh, I can use podcast technology for that. And he created this new thing called podcast information. Now this, you know, today people think of podcasts as something completely different. They don't think of it as a delivery system. They think of it as an object, right? That is a podcast. So this always confuses people, because they're like, you know, they think this is a whole different thing. It's not. And we really need to get rid of the word podcast there, because it confuses people. What this is all of the stations that are using podcast technology to download the show to put it on the air, just like these people. It's just that they're automating it. Now, recently the trouble with that is that it doesn't use the email address. Podcast technology doesn't depend on email addresses, so we can't identify who the person is. So we've been trying to convince stations to self-identify, so that the website recognizes who they are when they use podcast technology. And some of the stations have complied, like you see here, KKRN, they complied. They identified, and I don't know how that's done because I'm not involved, but they have to let us know, you know, they have to connect their name to a podcast, an IP address, and then it'll show up. So some of the stations have complied, you can see, but not very many, because it's a lot of work to get people to do what you want, always. So now people are even more confused, because they see some says unknown and some says station. So they think this is something different from this. And it's not. It's just that these people have identified themselves. So this is a very confusing part of the website. But the thing I can say about it is that these are not random podcast listeners. These are also radio stations that are taking your show and putting them on the air. They're the same thing as this. That's the bottom line. And you can count them. So you can, we used to have a little stat bar here, which was supposed to automatically count all this, but it never got it right. So we got rid of it. We used
Gee.
to also have a button where I don't know why that stat bar. I think it was the podcast that really messed up the stat bar. But we also used to have a button that allowed you to listen to the show without downloading it. But then the laws changed about, distributing content on air, and it became kind of an illegal thing. So we had to get rid of that too. So now you have to download the show to listen to it.
Well, at least you know how many people
Yes.
or how many stations.
Yes.
Yeah,
counted.
absolutely.
Okay,
You-
thank you,
yeah.
Ursula.
Sure.
I have a couple questions, if it's okay.
Absolutely.
One question I have is, if we wanted to self-identify, do we contact you to give you our IP address, or how do we do that so we can get listed there correctly?
Stephanie.
So yes, I can help with that. Once you decide you want to automatically download a show, it will be through RSS feed, and it'll put your email address in there. It'll work.
Okay.
Yeah. What
But
our
Stephanie, say they already are. Let's say they're already
Yeah.
doing it.
I think KXDR might already be downloading, because like
Right.
Sprout
Okay.
show, I think that we already, and I'm pretty sure it's all automated.
Yeah. So how did they
Okay,
go back and identify
so-
themselves?
So what Otis said is all you need to do is just re-enter your RSS feed, I think. I can get back to you on that, but that's what
Okay.
I understand. It's
But thank you
it's-
for asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just thought it would be, we have a tech call meeting coming up, so I thought I would mention this, but it would be great, or I can just have somebody contact you directly, because I won't be able to probably explain it, because it's not out of my area of expertise, but.
Yeah, I
I'd
have
like
an
to get us to do
email.
that.
I have an email that explains it better than I am doing now, and I can send that to you.
Okay, and I stuck my email in the chat. And then I have one other question, and maybe I'm jumping the gun. When I looked through the document that you showed that you asked questions, to see if your show is appropriate, it mentions further down in that document somewhere that you can specify a regional area for your show if it's not necessarily a national show. So it said when you're uploading, you could, and maybe I'm jumping the gun, that you could say, this show is more appropriate for a region of the United States versus the entire United States. Is that true? And when you say region, like how large of a region would you want people to, like my show would be appropriate for probably like the majority of the West Coast, but not inland probably. So like, is that large enough for me to be able to put a show up here, or is it not? Because I would love for like local Pacifica affiliates that are on the coast to be able to get the information for my show, because I think it's useful to them, but maybe it's too small. Maybe that's just too small.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything like that on the questionnaire. I'd be interested in going back and looking, because we don't actually have, this is one of the things that is kind of on our wish list for AudioPort, is that there would be a way to group programs regionally, because it's a need that is expressed regularly by stations. So we don't really have a way. I mean, there's ways you could do it, but there's not really an official way in AudioPort to identify your region. Having said that, the answer to your question is yes. I think that if you have a show that you feel speaks to stations on the West Coast, or even the state of California, because there's so many stations in California, I think that is legitimate. I think right now, with what the website can do, the way to handle that would be to put it in the description. So,
Okay.
in the summary here, you would say something like, this show is appropriate for West Coast stations. And I think that's completely legitimate, as long as you feel that it kind of meets the criteria of the other criteria of a distributed show, that it doesn't have local IDs on it or things like that. But there's enough stations on the West Coast to justify that. And it's not like, the way you would handle that is you would put it in AudioPort. You would state in there that this is for West Coast stations. And then you would, in promoting the show, you would say that. It's not going to bother anybody else in the website. Now, maybe these are famous last words, because if people start doing that, I don't think it's really a problem. I think just eventually what it means is that AudioPort is going to have to be, when it's redone, should address that more elegantly. That's all. But I don't think it's a problem.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure what I looked at. It may have not been your most current questionnaire. I just did a search on the internet and I came up with something that was on your website that I read through. And so that's really helpful because my station manager is encouraging me to do this with my show because he thinks that there's an audience for it. But then when I read that document and it said national only, I went, well, then I'm kind of out of it. So that's just helpful information.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're respectfully breaking the rules for a good reason. So it's not like we're going to put out an email and say, hey, start using AudioPort regionally, because it could create kind of a chaotic thing if it became a standard thing. But it's not, it's not like everybody's going to run out and do this. So I think you can kind of respectfully break that rule for good reasons. And then, and then if I were you, I would, do a search on the website of the West, stations that you feel qualify, and create an email for those people and say, look, I'm doing this in AudioPort, check it out. And it's not going to bother anybody else.
Okay, I wasn't sure because I was trying to follow all the rules. So I was just trying to be careful and be respectful of your system. Okay.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I noticed that Joseph wrote in the chat, when we were trying to get CPVP funding for our 13-part California Indian radio project, the national desk said this wasn't national, it's regional, apply there. We did, they said, this is more than regional, it should go national.
Oh, wow.
It was funded as national.
Wow, yeah, yeah. Yep. Yeah, actually, we Joseph, you and I have talked many times about using AudioPort for native stations to communicate more, and it's never really happened. But it's another example of what would be a good way to use the because regions aren't only geographic; they're also regions of interest, or regions culturally and. And it is a legitimate use of the website. It's just the website hasn't really found an elegant way to accommodate that yet, but it should. I agree. Okay, and anything else before we get into Stephanie? Okay, Stephanie, silence is consent.
Okay, if you could
you want to take over
unshare and then I'll share mine.
Yeah, okay, I will do that. Okay, you're okay with, you can do that?
Yeah, I should be able to.
All right.
Okay, here we go. Well, let's go to the uploading page. You saw the front part of it a little bit with the downloads and the summary. So now we're going to go to the back end of that page so you can see how to fill it out. And I'll just repeat what Ursula said. When we go to that page, if you still need some help, we're happy to go through it with you on the phone. That's really the best way to do it, actually. We'll just go line by line together, and then you can ask a question as needed, right? And then once you have your first episode, if you're doing a second episode, you'll have a template to go back to and refer to. But anyway, that's basically what we're gonna do that same thing now, just in a little bit bigger group. Okay, I'm gonna find the page here. All right, does everybody see it? Yeah? Can you guys see the AudioPort page?
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Can you make it bigger?
Oh, can I?
It's kind of small, or is that just me?
It's big on mine. If you go up to your view options at the top, Ursula, and then uncheck side by side mode if you have that checked.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know if that, hopefully that'll work for you.
It didn't make, oh, I see what I should do. Okay.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
So here we are on the AudioPort homepage, and if you are here, and let's say that you all have an account, right? You got an account, you got your own password, so you'll be on this page. So what we're gonna do is go to this middle tab here, Add Programming. And before we go to the next button, AudioPort just wants to make sure that when you've, exported your audio file from your editing software program, that you have the, let's see, it's the bit rate and the, what's the other one? I could just read it. You want to make sure.
This is actually a point that I wanted to make. The newest versions of Audacity that I've downloaded, they have a default sample rate of 4800. That's kind of something new that Audacity has done. I think they were sold to a commercial company. And AudioPort does not accept that. It wants 4100. So it's really frustrating to forget about that and then go through all that trouble and then AudioPort reject your file. So what I'm trying to say is if you're using Audacity, check the sample rate and make sure it's 4100 before you.
And I think on Audacity, it's the lower left corner. Is that where you see the sample rate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Stephanie, this
yeah.
is Jill. I use GarageBand for doing all my editing for my audio files.
Sure, absolutely. Yep.
That's
great.
Is that great? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what a bit rate is. I'm sorry to say.
I don't really know either, but I know we have to have it at least 64 or 128.
Okay, I'm writing this down. Thank you.
Yeah. If you look up.
Do not use 64. You want to go 128 and higher. Do not use 96.
Okay.
Do not use 64. Bit rate is kind of the way it's, it has to do with sound quality. It's how many times the data is broken up into how many pieces, and that the higher the bit rate, the better quality your sound is. And it limits it today at 128 is the lowest you can go.
So it's first a radio program in a professional studio, I would think that it would be recording at a professional level, or am I just making assumptions?
I think if you type in either sample rate or bit rate and then whatever program you're using, it'll show you how to access that in the program.
When you're recording, it'll probably make either a WAV file or an MP3 file, and it depends what your equipment is set at. But if you are editing the content, then you are going to have to tell the editing software at what rate to export it at. When you make it an MP3, it's going to ask you what is the what is the bit rate that you want to have.
Okay, I'll look for that.
Yeah, it's part of the export process.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add to something I've recently learned. While you're editing, it's best to edit in WAV, because if you edit an MP3, every time you make a cut, the quality goes down. But if you do it in WAV, it remains intact. And then you export it in MP3 is the best way. If you edit in MP3, I mean, it's very doable. I've done it. But if you're looking for a next level of quality, consider editing in WAV.
I think that's what we do. Yeah. So
Okay.
That's a good idea. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah. So, okay. When you got it and you're editing, software ready to export. So export MP3, sample rate 44,100, bit rate 128. This program is saying, AudioPort says it'll automatically reject any files that are lower than the standard. And higher is always good for bit rates. All files must be at a constant bit rate. I know for Audacity, it asks you, do you want it constant or variable? It should take you through a process. So hopefully the other programs will too. And okay, that's what it says. Audacity defaults to VBR. So you have to change it. Okay. So all of our standards for the audio file are in order. We're going to go to the next page.
Yeah, and also you only want to upload one show at a time. That's kind of a stupid question that asked there, like how many shows do you want to upload? Just always do one. That option shouldn't even be there.
Is that what that said? I missed that.
Yeah, it gives you a drop down where you can. You see where there's like a little drop down. You can make a whole bunch of shows, but it's a really. This was before automation happened, and today you just shouldn't do it anymore because it confuses automation systems.
So here we are on the upload page. This is where we're going to put all the information about our show. So people who are looking for it can find it easily. And this is something I want to stress. We ask people to fill out these fields in a specific way because it really is helpful for station managers to find your show. And station managers don't always have a lot of time, and they just want to get what they need and get it on the air. So if you have everything in the right spot, they can just get it and go. And if we all strive for uniformity too, and if everyone does it the correct way, that'll make it even easier for station managers. And that includes, I think Ursula touched on this just a minute, being consistent with the time you upload. Pick a day and always upload it on that day so managers can count on it. Especially if they have automation, their computer will just pick it up and they don't have to think about it. And then they know they can trust you that you're going to have a show that week for them. Okay. The first thing I want to go to is program type. It's the third field down. This is something that Ursula was talking about. We have all these categories, right? Do you have a show that you want that's a special? Were you at an event? Were you at a concert that was really great and you just want to share it? And did you just get this amazing couple of interviews that maybe you just want to put as a documentary? Or do you have something that you want to do every week? So once you make that decision, I think everyone here has a show that they're going to do repeatedly, like a series. Like Ursula said, AudioPort's language for a syndicated show is a series. So
Stephanie, why don't you upload a Sprout show so they can see the process?
Well, okay.
Or yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking a way for them to actually see what happens.
Well, I can still do that. So since you all have shows that you're going to do regularly, let's choose weekly as the program type. And we're also going to say it's a series. And there's the option there, add new series. Is this a new series? Yes, it is. Okay. Which brings me to the next thing that sometimes people get confused on. they get confused. The series name and the episode title name are going to be different, right? So the series name, let's go with, what did you say, Dick? Is a green portraits?
No, portraits in blue and green.
Portraits in blue and green.
You know, Stephanie, I think you should make up a fake name, because if you put his name into the system, when he tries to do it, it's going to tell him it already exists.
I'm not going to go through it though, the whole way.
That's all right. It's actually blue and green, so leave it that way.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. This will be your sister show. So the series name is just a couple drop downs down here. And now that we have the series name, we can go back up to the top. What is the name of our episode? And it's kind of a brief description of the theme, or a theme or a subject, or maybe a lot of people put down like the name of the person you're interviewing for the episode as a way to categorize it. So let's say this episode is about It's Not Easy Being Green.
I played that.
It's a great song.
It is, yeah.
Just to clarify, when you create a series, like in this case, it's portraits in blue and green, that series will always only show up when you log in. It'll be on your personal dropdown, but it will not show up anywhere else. So it becomes your personal menu of options.
You mean like when you go to your workroom?
No, when you're uploading a show and there's this series bar.
Oh, yeah.
It will only show you those series that are associated with your email address. You're not going to see anybody else's series.
Yeah, it really does a good job preloading the boxes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because the first time when we say it'll be add new series, and I put the name in, and then the next time when you go in there and you click on series, it'll have the actual title that you just go to. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Portraits in Green, the series, episode title number 1 is It's Not Easy Being Green. It's a weekly program. And then we have a subtitle option next. Some people do this, some people don't. This was something Robin brought up that I want to share. Keeping the episode title as clean as possible is one of the ways to help station managers. Some people clutter it with dates or like episode number, and it just makes it cluttery, I guess. It's just easier to read if you just have the title. Does that make sense?
What if you put, for example, my show coming up is Escaping the Rabbit Hole with Mick West. Can I put somebody's name up there too?
Yeah, that's great. That works great.
All right.
And when you do add your title, the date will automatically be added. So you don't have to worry about that. That part will show up. And if you want to add something else, yeah, you could say with Mick West up here, or you could put it in the subtitle, whatever you want. Either one is fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the next thing. This is box here. This is the tags, basically, for keywords. And in the modern system now, right, all you have to do is type in your own tags. Since this one was created in 2004, what Otis did was just create his own list of tags, and then you click on what matches your show. So what I'm going to do is expand this box, and you see all these topics. And if I scroll over them, they turn blue. And if I choose one and click, it goes pink. And that's how I know that one got chosen. So I'm going to go down. There's always music things, and then we get into philosophy, economy, poverty, environments for talk shows.
There must be one for politics.
Oh, yes. And if you guys have one that you just cannot find a match for a word you want, hopefully you will. But if you don't, let us know. We should be able to add it. Okay, geography. And there's all these countries. Still going countries. And then we'll start into more topics. Health, news, politics. There's politics.
You just pick one for each upload or one for your program?
You
Like
can
a
pick you can pick up to 10 for each
Oh, okay.
episode.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So it goes all the way down. So there's that. We'll go up here. All the music,
Politics. Mhm.
yes. All the music stuff's at the top if you're a music show.
That's good that you have 10, because I had an interview with a Peabody award-winning journalist on climate change and health. And then it was also a more mental health and allergies and just a lot of different sub issues in one show.
Right, exactly. Yeah, usually there's at least 5. So now that you've chosen, I'm gonna just pick these 2 so you can see film, history, language. And I'm gonna collapse this box to make it easier again, right? Collapse, and you see it down in the second box. Here's all the ones I picked. And if you don't want to vent anymore in the box, just click on the word and it'll disappear. Okay, does that make sense so far?
Yes.
Okay. Next field, featured. This is for people you're interviewed, who people you've interviewed on the show. Like, what did you say? Mick West?
Right, Mick West.
Mick West. You put Mick West, and you could put his title, like if he's a doctor or political guy, whatever. If you want to just say a little bit about it. So that's where that would go.
He's a professional debunker, conspiracy theory debunker.
Oh, professional disinformation. Oh, I think you told me about that in your email. Yeah, I'm curious to hear that show. Debunker. Okay. Next box. This is the summary of your show. The summary of your episode. So, Mick West travels around the world debunking misinformation.
Actually,
Listen.
for a music
This is
show,
your elevator speech. So this is where you want to use promotional language. Like, you're advertising your show here.
What were you going to say, Dick?
I tried kind of promoting the show and putting in a lot of flowery language, and the station manager said, "Don't do that." So what I put in there, since it's a music show, and I average 10 to 12 songs a week, I put in a playlist, the song, the artist, and the source.
That's
And
nice.
Everybody's happy with that so far.
Yeah, I think a lot of music shows do that, right? I've seen other shows do that. Right, Ursula?
Yeah, John, our director, technical director, went through a period where he asked people not to do that. But I think that there's an argument for and against it. And I think probably the argument for it is legitimate. I think it's very helpful to the stations.
Yeah.
So I think it is nice, and I think it's a very courteous practice.
So when you say elevator speech, you're like, what's a concise kind of just to the point, a few paragraphs?
Yeah, an advertisement statement, like, I would say Nick West, renowned commentary or something that, this is where you're kind of convincing people to take your show.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to, use a little bit of aggressive language in that.
Like,
in that part of it.
Building up the people you're interviewing kind of thing.
Is this
Yeah.
where you would say they've been on CNN and MSNBC or
Yeah,
ABC? Let people know that they've been on national media. They're a national media expert.
yeah.
Put
This
it
is
in
where
there.
you're,
Okay,
this is where you're selling it. So don't make
Got
it
it.
long, because people don't like, don't put in a manifest, don't put a manifesto about the issue in there. That's something that
Right.
happens in community radio a lot. Nobody's going to read a manifesto.
right.
But
Right.
yeah, sell it.
But on the other hand of it, I always appreciate when there's a couple details of what topics are discussed.
Yeah,
Like if he's talking about Fox News or Rush Limbaugh, like whatever the
Right. Debunking QAnon and UFOs.
QAnon.
They're big topics right now. Got it.
Exactly. Okay. Next box is who,
Can I ask a question?
yes, please.
Sorry. The information that you're putting in here, is this searchable then by people looking for a show, or only the tag searchable?
no, everything is searchable.
Okay,
It's
you.
not a very good search engine, but it does search everything.
okay. It would help me know then like what to put in that box. So that's
Yeah.
helpful.
It is searchable.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Next box, credits. Everyone who worked on the show. Producer, music theme, editing.
Host.
Thank you. Host.
It's also very courteous for you to say your station, your station,
Oh, sure.
its
Yep.
location. It's just a courtesy to your own station to do that.
And would that be putting our program director in there for that courtesy? The station's
No,
program?
I mean,
Okay.
unless he's played a role or she's played a role, it's just
No.
nice to mention your station's name and its location. But
Right. Okay.
yeah,
Produced by KSQD 90.7 FM. Got
yeah,
it.
that's
Okay.
nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I see there's a thing in the chat. I just want to make sure I didn't miss it. Oh, talking about regional. Okay. Okay. Any other questions about that box? Okay.
Nope.
All right. About the series. So we had a box about the specific episode. Now you have a paragraph or two about the series as a whole, Portraits in Blue and Green loves to talk about jazzy Muppets and all of their music. And we go from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And we like to give you a mood of relaxation, whatever, the vibe of your show is. Maybe if you have a political view or if you want to talk about environment or, the overall theme.
Yeah, it's a branding statement.
Branding statement. Thank
I
you.
usually plug in, this is music from Blues Alley to Tin Pan Alley. We've got it all covered.
Oh, I like that.
So the next time you upload a show, the second time, you're going to go back to your first show. You can open AudioPort in more than one tab. You're going to go back to your first show and you're going to copy the branding statement and just paste it into the second show.
Yes, that's a good point. Some people forget to keep sharing about their series as a whole. Okay. I just want to make sure I want to make sure I'm specific enough. That's more about the label. Okay. Just want to make sure I didn't miss that. Okay, next thing, the release date. If you upload your show every Friday and you want people to be able to take it on Friday, then you'll just go to this little calendar and go on Friday and it'll just punch it in. What's nice about the release date is if you're going to be busy on Friday, you can upload it on Thursday and still pick Friday, and it'll release it then. Or if you're going on vacation. Okay.
You wouldn't use the air date?
What's that? The air date?
Yeah.
I guess that means kind of the same thing, right? The release date is the air date. Or
Well, the air date, you don't know what the air date is because it depends on who puts it on the air.
right.
Oh,
Each
yes.
station is going to decide throughout the week when they want to play it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for example, my Be Bold America program is bi-weekly, and it's a Sunday, and that's a live show, but then it probably would be released maybe that following Monday, but it's every other week. So does that release date work that way, or I just do it individually each time what date it's going to be out?
That would work because you would just pick a bi-weekly date instead of a weekly date.
Yeah,
does-
the website doesn't generically categorize your shows at a date. You have to choose the date every time you
got it.
upload a show.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And you can also, you have a choice in the program type up here to choose bi-weekly.
Right, I saw that. Perfect.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stephanie,
Okay.
can I break in here with one point we didn't talk about?
Yeah,
One of the questions I get a lot from new producers is they say, well, I've got an archive of about 15 shows that I've done in the last year that I want to distribute. Should I put them all in at once so people can choose from them? And the answer is no, do not do that. First of all, because a lot of a lot of stations are using podcast technology to receive your show, and podcast technology just takes the latest thing. So it's going to ignore all of them except the last one. So it's kind of a waste of your time to do that. The other reason is everybody else in that category that's trying to upload a show is going to get completely blown out of the water by all of your shows in the queue. And it just kind of confuses people and pisses them off. And the thing is, stations work usually on a regular basis, so they're not going to know what to do with the backlog either. So if you have 10 shows that you want to get into AudioPort and say this is going to be a weekly show, then you can upload them all at the same time. Just, space that, but put a different date on each one so that they're spaced out, at whatever interval you plan to syndicate the show, like weekly or daily or bi-weekly or monthly. Just space it out so that it will show up on within those timeframes. And that's the way radio stations are working. And the other reason why you shouldn't do it all at once is because all of those shows are going to be put in the past within a few days, because they'll be moved down the queue and it'll all be stuck in the past, which kind of is a waste of your time too. So does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay, thanks,
Okay.
Stephanie. Sorry.
We want it current. We just want things current and live and
okay. That was a good point. And when you said that, it made me want to emphasize again how important it is to fill out all the boxes that we're talking about, especially the about this program box, just because we've noticed a lot of people don't fill out the box, and station managers will be less likely to take your show if they can't read what it's about, because they don't have the time to listen to it to the whole hour. So if they can just get that paragraph, that means the world. Okay. Now this bottom section here, actually a lot of it we don't need. And this is on our list of things that we're considering just removing because they could confuse people. So apologies for that. Version title, you don't need. Version description, you don't need. Language, you might if you're a Spanish show or another language. Location recorded might be a place that you would want to fill out. There are shows that fill that one out. Announcer, transcript, don't worry about it. Okay, so we got everything filled in here. Looks good. Okay, let's go back to the bottom and go to next page. The new series name you've entered already exists? Really? Someone has a show called... Okay, let's call it Boobity Doo. Okay, accepted that one. Okay, now we're on the page where we're gonna submit the audio file. And again, AudioPort just wants to make sure we're doing things correctly. Once we upload the file, it says click next page only one time. I think this is because sometimes it just takes a little while to load and it's just a habit for people to re-click things, right? So you don't have to. Okay, don't click until you've got everything in order. And if your upload limit is above what it accepts, it won't work. And this brings me to, I don't think we talked about this yet, how, yeah, this will be a good place to put it. Generally, people are either going to have a half-hour show or an hour show. And by half hour, we mean 29 minutes. So people can put in, you know, PSAs or underwriting or just announcer things they want to do. So 29 minutes for a half hour and 57, 58, or 59 for an hour. Whatever you're most comfortable with. And then sometimes people will have a 2-hour show. If that's the case, you want to have a separate series for each hour. That's because we go back to the idea of the automation systems. If you just have one series and you say part 1, part 2, the automation is just going to go to the last one. Like Ursula said, if you have a whole bunch of shows at once, if you upload them all, it's just going to go to the final one. Same thing with part 1 and part 2. It's just going to go to the last one and it'll be confusing. So what you do is series 1, boobity boobity part 1, and then all the episodes, and then, sorry, part 1 or hour 1, however you want to. And then boobity boobity hour 2 and all those episodes. Does that make sense to you guys?
That makes sense. And I wanted to say, Stephanie, that I need to get going, and I hate that because I want to finish this this training, but I do have another commitment at 3 to be at.
Oh, no worries.
3 California time.
I'm going to post this on our website. So if there's anything you missed, you can always look back at it.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
I can email you and I can contact. Now, the question I had was, Howard Feldstein was the one that told me about this training, but you mentioned Matilda. So, you know, Matilda, is she on my station's account manager and I'd go to her to get an account?
I don't know, is she the manager or is she the program person? Or is she on the board?
What's your station again?
KSQD.
Okay, I'll look just a second.
And if you guys in the future want to, talk to us and clarify about having a separate series for each hour, we can talk about that again, and walk you through it.
I'm sorry to hang people up there.
Oh, no, you're fine. We're easy. No big deal.
Go with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Rachel Goodman.
Oh, Rachel. Okay, got it. Now I know who to go to.
Okay.
Okay, fabulous.
She's the president. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you
cool.
so much. This has been very helpful. So
Yeah,
I'll
thanks for
start the
joining us,
process-
Jill.
Oh, thank you for putting it on, and I'll start the process from our end soon too.
Okay, yeah.
Nice meeting you all.
Bye-bye.
Nice meeting you too. Give us a call if you need to.
Thursday. Okay, bye now.
Bye-bye. Okay, so we got everything in order. We have everything the right file size. We'll go to this button here and choose file. I'll choose 2020 Talks, but I won't really choose it because I don't want to erase it. Anyway, so this is going to say 2020 Talks right here. And this is another important way that we have to organize things, is to label it. It makes it easier for station managers to identify that when they download a bunch of shows. And if you have a label, they can see right away where it is, and then they know where to put it in their lineup. And how we label a show is with generally one word for the series name. So I'm going to say portraits. And one word for the episode name. And I'm going to say green. Because you only have a limited amount of characters you can use. So that's why I keep it simple with using as few words you can to describe it. So that's it, right? Portraits in green. And I've got the file here, and I'll go to next page and it'll upload it. So let's pretend I did that with Sprouts. Excuse me. So once you hit that next page, you'll see everything filled out in the boxes here. Okay, here's the title, Tackling Climate Change. It's a weekly program. Featured guest speaker, this is who they interviewed. Here's a little summary about the episode. And the notes is, this is what the series is about. This is what we like to focus on with our show. And then of course, when you go down, right, this is how many people have taken the show. And that's it. And if you want, you can always go back and re-edit something. If you had a typo, here's this top right-hand corner here, edit program. And it'll take you right back to this original page. Oh, I need to fix this word here, blah, 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 right? Or any of that. And then once you fix it, go back down, update. Oh, that's much better. I fixed it. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
If you're in the middle of this and you call away, will the program time out and make you start over again? Or can you continue it after, say, 15-minute interruption?
Yeah, it'll time out.
So anything you've entered, you have to re-enter.
Yeah, usually. I found
Well,
it does. Yeah, you want to finish that process. Yeah, it has timed out on me.
That's good to know. I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
I have a question. Can you upload it to your workroom and then review it? And when you feel comfortable with it, then make it public, or is it one or the
Yes.
other? Okay.
Yes. When you choose the, I guess I do that with the release date, right?
Well, no, if you'll see, scroll up to the top, Stephanie.
Oh, this is what you mean, the workroom? Yeah.
What,
Yeah,
I mean,
so I'll just check boxes.
Stephanie has a manager's account here, so ignore the thing that says make this public because that's a manager's thing. But you also see there's a box that says make this available only in my workroom. That box is there when you are filling out the information about your show before you've uploaded it. It's there. And if you click that, it will only upload to your workroom. And then when you want to make it public, you go in and edit it and you unclick that box. Is that clear?
Yes, that's great. 'Cause I'm one of those people who's always paranoid that I'm going to make an error, and I like to look at it first. Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially when I'm learning.
Yeah, it's also a really good best practice once your show is uploaded to download it yourself and spot check it. I mean, the website's reliable, but I just do it as a best practice. I just make sure that yeah.
It's also helpful to know about, oh, I don't want to overload you guys with information, but this will be recorded, so you guys look back at it if you want. So up here's the summary, right? Let's scroll down. This is the file here with a little button that we uploaded. If you get in a situation where you realize you said a bad word or your file was too long, whatever, and you need to change the file, but you don't want to redo all that work you did on putting in the summary and the information, you can just change out the files. And how you do it is with this section here. The only thing is you have to do it in order, is what I learned. You have to delete the original file first before you add the new one. So here's these little above the bar here, edit version, add files, delete files, okay? So first we would delete, choose that, and here it is. This is the one we uploaded. We click it and then delete it. And once you do that, this little button will be gone. And you can go back up to this bar. Oh, add files. Okay. And then you would do the upload of the one you want. How about that? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
The other trick you can do with that is if you click edit version here, you can change the upload, you can change the release date, which is kind of a trick I learned recently.
Right. And for people who, if Dina, you say you're kind of paranoid about, not wanting to do it before it's ready. I've actually had it happen a couple times where I've had it. It says it's only in my workroom, but for some reason, I see people downloaded it. So I like to, I'll go back. Edit version. I like to change the calendar to a day ahead of when I'm uploading it. And then I can just keep working on it. Anyway, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but that's helped. That's saved me. Yeah.
Well, one question I get a lot is, does my show have to be the same length every time? And the answer is yes, to the second. If you want people to take your show, make it the same length to the second, because if people are using automation software, they may not be in the studio and the software is timed. And if you make the show shorter than usual, then there's going to be dead air on the station, and people really don't like that. And if you make it longer, somebody's going to get cut off in mid-sentence, and that's going to make the station sound unprofessional. So yes, to the second, figure it out. Figure out how to do that.
Right, and yeah, go ahead.
I just have another best practices question for you. So all of us at KXPR who might be interested in using this have been on the air for a while. So what is the best practice? Is the best practice to just start with the current show and just forget our old shows? Or is it better practice to go back and what we're putting on here is not what we're airing locally at the same time? See what I'm saying? Like I would, like, it seems like the best practice would be to stay current with what I'm airing, but I'm just curious.
It's a judgment call. It depends entirely on the content.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because my show's not, it's not, my show wouldn't, it's not political or news, so it wouldn't matter, but I see what you're saying. It could for some. Okay.
I would just say go with the most compelling information whatever that is. Make it compelling. Lead with compelling content.
So I could pick my best shows, the ones
Yeah.
that have the most listeners, like off SoundCloud and stuff, and I could start with those, knowing those are popular shows. They don't have to match what I'm airing here locally each week.
No, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
I like that. Okay.
Cool. And once you start racking up your episodes, you'll see them all line up here.
Stephanie, would you go to the workroom for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is somebody's workroom. I'm not sure who. Is this your workroom, Stephanie, or Sprout's workroom?
This is Sprout's workroom.
Okay, so scroll up to the top.
Okay.
Okay, so you'll see here it says, this is, did you sign in as yourself, Stephanie?
Yeah, this is as me.
This is a manager's account, so it's a little bit confusing.
Oh, okay.
But
You want me to re-sign in as Sprouts?
yeah, why don't you do that? Because that's not a manager's account. It'll look different.
And speaking of Sprouts, Sprouts is mostly talk radio, or if there's music that's, copyright free. If you have a show that you particularly like, share it with me and we might be able to put it on Sprouts. And feature it for the world. Okay. Okay, we're at the top.
Okay, now this is what your workroom will look like. So you'll see it says in the gray box up there, it says grant, revoke access to workroom. This is how you share the workroom with other people. So if you want to work together with somebody, this is where you do it. Like I'm working right now with Ann Levine at WOMR on Ukraine 242. So when she gets an interview, she puts it in her workroom and I go to her workroom to get it. And it bypasses the whole distribution thing. So if you click on, Stephanie, click on grant, revoke access. So this shows you who has access to the workroom right now, which is a really interesting list. There's a whole lot of outdated names on there. But anyway, these are people who right now can get to our workroom through their workroom. But up above, you see a list of out the alphabet. You can find anybody who has an account in AudioPort. You can find them there with the alphabetical list. And so when you so, so click on just any random letter, Stephanie. Okay, so down below here, we see all these people. So let's say I want to share it with Hard Knock Radio. You'll see there's a grant access thing there. And don't do it, but that would give them access to my workroom here. And likewise, if you click one of the names up above of people who have access, I can revoke their access. You see, it says revoke access. So that's how I just wanted to show that to you, to show that you can, you can communicate with people in a non-public way. And that's very useful if there's somebody you're working with who is, in another part of the country and you want to collaborate with them. So anyway, I wanted to, that's the other thing that I learned recently was that if I am visiting somebody else's workroom, like say I go into Stephanie's workroom and then I upload something, it actually goes into her workroom instead of mine, which is interesting. I didn't know it did that. So anyway, I just wanted to show that, and so that you were aware of that feature.
Cool. I think we're getting to the end. I do have one more thing to say about, are you guys familiar with metadata?
Yes.
Okay. Do you use metadata, Dick?
No, I don't. I'm not sure. Metadata is data about data.
Yeah, it is actually. Metadata is something you fill in when you're exporting from your editing software. And it's just another way to label things that's easy for people to pick up on. I talked to one of our radio producers, station managers. He says that lots of radio and streaming services use metadata to tell the listener what's playing. Like sometimes you can see the name of a song on a FM radio station. They'll display it, or automation will use it to find the name of something. And he says it's frustrating if you can't see the title because there's no metadata. So that's something that's good to be aware of too. So you have three ways that you want to label things. One is your show page, right? The upload page with the summary and all the information we went through. One is the label that you do right when you upload the actual file. And one is the metadata when you're exporting from the editing software. And it should prompt you, like it does for Audacity anyway. It's just one box. It's basically who produced this show, what's the title of the show, what year was it made, maybe like a little paragraph, what it's about, and that's it.
Yes, I know what you mean. I've done that.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, it's an Audacity thing. It isn't AudioPort.
Correct. Yes, that's right. Okay, fantastic. I think that's all I have.
Yeah, thank you everybody for sticking it out. I know this has been a very long session.
It was, wasn't it? It was like 2 hours.
But we appreciate your question because it helps,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. This was great. Are there any other final questions?
What time is dinner?
We'll mail it to you.
This is East Coast time over here.
Well, we better go so you can eat. Thank you, Dick. Thank you, Dina. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you, Ursula. And again, please, if you guys want to walk through it with us again, we're happy to do it. Please give us a call. And in the meantime, good luck. We'll look forward to seeing your show up on AudioPort.
Okay, nice job, Ursula. And nice job, Stephanie.
Thank you. It's very nice to meet you. And our greetings to everybody up at WNHN. I always have trouble saying that. WNHN.
Pass it along.
Fantastic. Take care.
Okay.